Hey everybody, welcome back to Photorec.tv. I'm Toby. Can Canon's entry-level 26 megapixel RP compete against a pro-level full-frame mirrorless? I wondered. So I took this camera on a recent workshop. This is Canon's RP. It's a $999 full-frame mirrorless. And I was pretty harsh on this camera when it was first released in 2019. But I quickly realized it does several, actually at least 5 things better than my Sony A1 that costs $6,500. Let's start with the fact that the Canon RP is just over 1 pound or 485 grams. That's over half a pound lighter than the Sony A1, or a difference of 252 grams. You could slap on Canon's 50mm f1.8 prime and still have 100 grams to spare. It's also about the difference of a fat hamster. Now, not everybody wants a smaller and lighter camera, but as someone who travels often and can encounter very strict weight requirements on some of the planes I'm flying, lighter is better. And it still manages to feel quite decent in the hand and provides a fully articulating screen, which leads me to this discussion about Canon's superior touchscreen experience. I'm not going to get into the debate of the flippy outie versus the tilting on the Sony, because I think for photographers, Fuji and Nikon do a better job with their two-way tilt. And I think the flippy outie is better for videographers, so it really depends on your shooting needs. But let's focus in on this touchscreen experience for a minute. My A1 is the newer generation that does allow you to touch to focus or start focus tracking, and you can navigate through the menu, but you need to press a physical menu button first to do that, or press a physical function button before accessing the kind of quick shortcuts that Sony calls functions. On the RP, you can touch an on-screen Q button to access tons of options, so no physical button press first, and you can directly adjust exposure settings with just a quick touch. Now, I really do like my physical dials and buttons. I think there is no faster way to adjust settings, especially when the camera is up to your eye. But there are times where having the touchscreen allow you to access everything, let's say when the camera is at an odd angle, is nice. Very nice. Now let's talk about a minor nitpick, but sometimes minor improvements can make a big difference. Both of these cameras will charge over USB, and I'm happy to say that the RP is not very picky like the power delivery PD requirements from other Canon mirrorless cameras, and that's the same as my A1. Basically, plug them into any USB charging puck and they will start to charge. And look here how well this works on Canon. Plug in this little USB cord here on the side and it lets you know that it's charging with a nice green light right here. It's very visible, it's very bright. That works nicely. Let's plug this same cord in on the Sony and see how to tell if it's charging. Nothing on top, nothing on the back, and right here in this little space. It's a little annoying difference. I can't tell you the number of times that I've had to double check that it is actually properly plugged in on both ends and it is charging. This video is brought to you by Squarespace. I'm going to show you just how ridiculously easy it is to build a Squarespace website right now. Start at squarespace.com/photorectv so you can save 10%. Pick from one of many Squarespace's gorgeous starting templates. Open the work or gallery page depending on the template you chose and choose to edit that. Delete the placeholder images. Add your own images. Update the text content. Click Save. Update the About and Contact page. Visit the settings page. Easily add a domain and share with your friends. It's just that easy. It really is. Another small difference, and one that is so fixable from Sony if they just spend a little time and energy, bulb timer. Yeah, just to make sure we're all on the same page. Bulb mode allows you to hold the shutter open as long as you are pressing the shutter button, but that's not practical because you wiggle the camera. So you use a remote or as Canon provides, a bulb timer. You simply go into the menu and say, I want a 2-minute exposure. Boom, you got it, along with a nice display on the screen showing the elapsed time. What an amazing idea. No, it's not really, it's very simple. I know there are some other cameras that are even better, And they allow you to shoot longer than the arbitrary 30 seconds without even messing about in bulb mode, but I don't live in that world, especially since I lent my Panasonic GH5 to my daughter. Now, some of you might say, how often are you really shooting longer than 30 seconds? Well, you might have missed my Better Astro Tips video. I've been using a star tracker for the last couple of years. 2 to 4 minute exposures are sweet. And like the charging light, this is something that impacts me often enough that it is a real annoyance. So I've been using this cheap little remote and then the clock app on my phone to time how long I want to hold it open for. What, I'm some animal? And this is where it hurts even more. Sony app, the Imaging Edge app, it used to display a timer. So out in the field, you could move it into bulb mode and then it would start counting down. And it was still just an on-screen display. You had to pay attention and stop it at the desired time. Now I could solve this by using a wired remote, something like this that has timer built in, or the Myop Smart remote, but why do I have to mess around with extra gear on my professional level camera and extra gear that requires batteries? Seems like a few lines of code and a quick firmware update would make this so much better. Come on, Sony. Anyway, thank you, Canon, for doing that. Let's move on. Every time I review a more budget-oriented camera, full frame or crop, I wonder, out of the favorite photos I've captured in the last year or two, would there be less of those photos if I had used X camera? Usually I can only come up with a few photos that I really might have missed capturing and or aren't suitable to print at larger sizes. I mean, yeah, there are some big differences between these cameras, like the 5 frames per second versus 30 frames per second, and the difference in the autofocus is huge. But for many photos, when I'm looking at them, produced by these two cameras, sized for social media, I think you have a hard time telling the difference. One more, let's say bonus advantage of the RP, or let's say our ecosystem, are 2 telephoto lenses. Like these, the 600 and 800. Now, I think Sony actually has a clear advantage in the number of lenses, especially when you include third-party, budget-friendly lenses that autofocus. But Sony doesn't have anything like the 600 or 800. I'm really impressed with the quality you get from these lightweight and budget-friendly lenses, and I'd love to see something similar offered for Sony photographers. Now let's start to wrap this up. And before you Sony owners leave me nasty comments, I've been shooting with Sony since 2015. And this A1 is quite an amazing camera. The autofocus is often mind-blowingly good. And the fact that I can shoot these 50 megapixel images at 30 frames per second and quality 8K video all packed into a very lightweight and compact body, maybe just not as lightweight and compact as the RP. Well, overall, I am happy. I just think there is room for improvements. Hold on, stop the presses. As I was putting the finishing touches on this video, I realized the Canon RP offers focus bracketing. That's the ability for you to say, I want X number of frames focused at different points into this composition, allowing you then to bring them back into Photoshop or some other specialized software and stacking for maximum depth of field. The Sony A1 does not. I'm curious though, let me know which one of these differences you think is most embarrassing for Sony, or maybe there's another item that I left off the list, like viewfinder customization. Yes, Canon does that better. Anyway, you can leave those comments right down below, and I'll just add that one of the reasons I wanted to shoot with the RP again is I'm thinking about that idea of budget full frame, like the RP, versus a more feature-rich crop sensor camera like the new R7 and R10. And I do think most people would be happier and better served by the R7 or R10. But anyway, I'm gonna have more about that soon. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe along with hitting that little bell so that you'll be notified of future videos. And follow me on Instagram to see what I'm up to between these videos. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye. With the last few seconds of this video, I thought I'd list all of the ways that the Sony A1 beats the Canon RP. You got more megapixels with higher dynamic range and better low light, high ISO performance. You got faster and more responsive autofocus and animal and bird eye AF, faster top shutter speed, faster flash sync speed, a larger buffer, more white balance presets with white balance bracketing, an anti-dust shutter mechanism, higher resolution rear screen, much higher resolution viewfinder with a faster FPS and no blackout, and an electronic shutter fast enough for fast action, stabilized sensor, 8K video, 4K video without a crop, 4K slow-mo, USB 3.2 connection for a way faster download of your images, full-size HDMI port, more than double the battery life.